rise of ethnic clashes in Narok South has seen 8 people killed and 20 houses burnt, leaving several families displaced. Today also marks the day that Kenya has recorded the highest number of new COVID-19 cases at 123 since the first case was reported on March 13th. This and much more on tonight's broadcast. Welcome to Midweek on TV47. My name is Alan Owino, but first, the day's highlights.
Tonight on Midweek, the government begins a disbarment program in Nakuru County targeting bows and arrows following skirmishes that have left 8 people dead. Plus, Mathare records 33 new COVID-19 cases in one day as the country records 123 more, the highest number of new infections within 24 hours. And education stakeholders and rights groups want national examinations deferred to the first quarter of 2021 as they warn against hurried reopening of schools.
Welcome to the bulletin. Our sign language interpreter is Anne Wairimu. The government has banned politicking and ordered forceful disarmament in clash-hit villages of Ololoipanki and Oloruashi area in Narok South sub-county after 8 people were killed and dozens left nursing injuries following a 3-day clash between 2 communities living in the area. The disarmament targets bows and arrows. Linda Alela reports.
The ongoing clashes in Narok County that have left at least 8 people dead have irked the Rift Valley Regional Commissioner George Natembeya. Natembeya has now ordered for an immediate mop-up of illegal weapons in the hands of the residents and banned politicians from holding meetings in the area.
So tunataka muendelee kukaa pamoja, mmoja mambo kuchochewa. Mambo ya wanasiasa, mimi nimesema sitaki wanasiasa hapa. I do not want any politician here. Yule amechaguliwa hapa, wacha kuja maana yake. Lakini anybody from outside asikanyage hapa.
Speaking to journalists when touring the clash-hit areas, Natembeya ordered GSU officers to go on a house-to-house hunt of the illegal weapons, noting that one of the people who lost his life was killed by an illegal firearm.
Inaitwa offensive weapon. Jambo lingine ambalo hatutalala ile bunduki ambayo ilipiga mtu hapa. Maana kuna mtu aliwawa na bunduki hapa. Kama uko nayo bunduki na unataka mambo yako kuwa sawa sawa, kwenda tumba kwa barabara.
On Saturday evening, clashes erupted between 2 communities in Oloruashi village in Narok South sub-county, giving police officers a hard time to quell the violence. 2 more people have lost their life due to the clashes, raising the death toll to 8. Leaders in the region have castigated the animosity between the communities and urged them to solve their issues amicably.
Hii mambo ya kublame game hapa ya kusema atio hata mimi kama kiongozi hiyo ni upuzi. Hatuwezi kupali watu wapoteze maisha kwa sababu ya vitu ya uchinga ng'ombe moja mnapigana ya nini? We must stop that.
The leaders maintain that the clashes could have been triggered by land issues and alleged cattle raids.
Hapa tuko sasa bwana commissioner, hii ni katikati ya Wamasai. Si ati Kipsigis kwa huko mbali. Huko ni shamba ya sange ile mlima. Sasa Kipsigis kwa huko mbali. Na wanakuja mpaka hapa. Na sijui ni nini.
Natembeya says the National Cohesion and Integration Commission NCIC will be incorporated in the anticipated talks between local leaders of the besieged communities. More officers have been deployed in the area to beef up security. At least 13 people were injured and 13 houses torched in the 3 days of violence. Linda Alela, TV47.
Moving on to other stories. Kenya has recorded the highest number of new COVID-19 cases within 24 hours since the first case was announced in March. 123 people tested positive after 3,077 people were tested in the last 24 hours. And as Eli Logova reports, Mathare had the bulk of the new cases with 33 new infections.
123 new positive cases. The highest number of new COVID-19 cases Kenya ever recorded since March. This is after 3,077 samples were tested in the last 24 hours.
We have tested the largest number of samples at over 3,000, starting at 3,077 over the last.
Among the positive cases, Nairobi County has the highest number, followed by Mombasa and Kiambu respectively.
Nairobi is once again leading with a total infection of 85 people, followed by Mombasa with 24, while Kiambu has 4, followed by other various counties.
In Nairobi County, Mathare has 33 cases, Kibra 14 cases, Embakasi West has 12 cases, and Embakasi Central recorded 4 cases. In Mombasa, Mvita has 9 cases, while Changamwe recorded 4 cases. Kiambu County recorded 4 cases, 1 each in Kabete, Ruiru, Kikuyu, and Juja. 3 more people have succumbed to the virus, bringing the death toll to 55.
On another sad note, we have lost 3 more patients to the virus, bringing the total number of fatalities to 55. And I would like to take this opportunity to condole with the families of those who have succumbed to this deadly virus.
CS Mutahi Kagwe has reiterated the need for Kenyans to ensure they observe health measures meant to curb the spread of COVID-19, more so in the transport sector.
I would like to make an appeal to the public, transportation owners, drivers and riders. As you can see, some of the highest infections come from areas where public transport is the primary means of transportation. Yet, we have noticed that many have reverted back to their old ways of travel, disregarding social distancing rules and not obeying masking guidelines.
Globally, there are over 5.6 million confirmed COVID-19 cases. More than 2.3 million people have recovered and at least 350,000 others have died from COVID-19. Eli Logova, TV47, Nairobi.
Now that story brings us to our first live interview via Skype, where I'm joined by Emma Ingaiza, who's the Health Systems Manager at Shofco. Emma, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Alan. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thanks for having me on the interview.
All right. So let's just get straight into this discussion. I want for you to tell us, what is the mood in Mathare considering the number of COVID-19 positive cases that have been confirmed? That's 33. What's the current mood with regards to this information that came out?
Of course, there's a lot of anxiety with the coming up of the news, but also it's not as such a surprise because just the other day there was mass testing done at St. Teresa's this Sunday, and therefore some of the cases that are being diagnosed right now are as a result of that. I would say the mood is both anxious and also just receiving news to the reality that, this is with us, and people just getting out there to realize that they really need to access more testing and also realize that the disease is actually in the Mathare population.
All right. Now, we know very well that Mathare neighbors Eastleigh, and Eastleigh right now, as we speak, is under partial lockdown. Considering the new cases that have been reported in Mathare, do you see the same course transpiring in Mathare where there is a potential partial lockdown?
Mathare is an urban informal settlement.
Yes.
It's not so organized as Eastleigh would be.
Okay.
However, that would really be gauged by the government if whether we should have a lockdown.
Yeah.
But again, I think at this point, 31 new cases are not few.
Yes.
I think on that particular day, we worked with our community health volunteers and 307 clients were able to be referred. So if out of 300 clients, 31 were diagnosed, that means there are more clients.
Yes.
And therefore, I think a lockdown would do. However, there's also the socioeconomic aspect to the community. It's an urban informal settlement and the kind of people who live there. I think the government would really have to weigh the costs benefit ratio.
All right. Now, you've talked about an important aspect, which brings me to my question. You've talked about the economic aspect of this COVID-19 situation. And when you talk about the economic aspect, public transport is a big bit of how people in poor urban areas survive. And the CS himself said public transport has been fueling the rise in the cases. How have the people in Mathare been treating the public transport?
I'm glad to say that the public transport are along both Juja Road and Thika Road that transverse within Mathare has been quite disciplined. They've adhered to the government regulations of the social distancing in the cars.
Yes.
And there's been markedly reduced transport within the two routes because most of the urban informal settlements within Mathare, their livelihood depends on the casual jobs in Isili. So just apart from the social distancing that is happening within Matatus,
yes,
there's also been reduced travel. There's also been reduced travel from Mathare to Isili.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, now just as we wrap this interview, the rise in the numbers of COVID-19 cases is definitely alarming, and SHOFCO is an organization that deals with humanitarian operations. Do you see yourself stopping your operations in the event that the numbers rise even further?
No.
Yes.
One of the areas we've really strengthened is we run a community primary health care service. Yes. That is a health center. And that is where we anticipate referrals to come from. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad to say that strategically placed, SHOFCO had overseen that coming up.
Yeah.
And we are much more stronger currently on the community health strategy that involves more sensitization on how the community can bend the curve. So I do not think that SHOFCO would shut down. We want the community to have somewhere they could turn to in case they have symptoms or they need a referral.
Yes.
Or also through our community health strategy, we want a platform where the community can access information and early screening. Yeah.
Okay, fine, Emma. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
One of the examples is why we can't shut down is why we have these cases diagnosed is because the clients were able to get information on the mass testing, and therefore we have these numbers. So it is an encouragement to us to actually go on.
All right. My apologies for cutting you short earlier on, but thank you very much for your time this evening, Emma.
Yes. Thank you too for having me on the interview. See you.
All right. Now, the debate to reopen schools amidst the coronavirus pandemic should be based on what is in the best interest of the children. This is the opinion of the Kenya National Union of Teachers in conjunction with the University Academic Staff Union, who released their joint report today on the effects of COVID-19 on teaching and mitigation measures. Our reporter Andrine Kilemi with the details.
The debate on the reopening of schools in the country has continued to gain momentum, with stakeholders in the education sector openly contradicting. Kenya National Union of Teachers, University Academic Staff Union, among other stakeholders, say the decision should be negotiated and not dictated.
Government seems to be in a hurry to force children back to school. But we're saying lives of teachers and children and workers are more important.
Speaking during the launch of the joint report, NATS Secretary General Wilson Sosion said observing social distancing in our schools is close to impossible given the poor status of infrastructure in most schools in the country.
Open the supermarkets, open the bars so that you can test social distancing from those who will go and drink in the bars. Open the churches. And if there will be evidence when the curve shall have been flattened that it shall be safe to reopen schools, then we will be more than prepared to resume schools.
The unions additionally proposed that the national examinations be pushed to 2021 and have schools reopened only when the COVID-19 curve is flattened.
Even if exams are pushed to the year 2021, July, or even November 2021, there is nothing wrong. And what is exams? This is evaluation of what has been done in the various curricula. And that is not going to stop promotion of learners to the next level. It shall be possible to proceed and promote from that level.
They have also suggested to have all teachers and boarding school students tested for COVID-19 before resuming school.
Majority of our teachers are an aging population. Most of them are age 45 years and over. So they are more at risk, very much at risk when it comes to COVID-19. Those over 55 years or 50 years and over should not even step anywhere near schools.
At the same time, they want to have a consultative meeting with the Cabinet Secretary for Education, Professor George Magoha, to ascertain that necessary preparations have been fully complied to as prescribed by WHO. This comes even as the country awaits to receive a report on resuming schools from the National Education Response Committee on COVID-19. Andrine Kilemi for TV47.
At this point, we'd love to take a short break, but don't go away. Remember, you can communicate with us on all our social media platforms. That's at TV47KE, or you might as well use the details on the bottom right of your screen. Don't go away. We'll be back with more news. Thank you for staying with us right here on Midweek on TV47. Let's continue with other stories. Despite the government initiating coronavirus testing at the Malaba border post, the exercise poses a nightmare for the drivers due to the long time taken by medical officers to take the swabs. And as our reporter Mike Kagwunga reports, the recently staged demonstration did not stem from drivers rejecting the tests. Rather, the drivers were protesting mistreatment by Ugandan authorities.
In Malaba town, barely a day after the government, through Regional Police Commandant Nur Gabo and his GSU counterpart Douglas Kanja, agreed on reopening the busy Kenya-Uganda road.
There's no problem along this border. Our brothers in Uganda, you are seeing the way they are orderly. Therefore, we are ensuring that these vehicles, there's free flow of vehicles along this highway.
Truck drivers reiterate the situation at the border post is still the same as before. Traffic gridlocked in Malaba having been resolved after the crisis created by trucks was eased. But the drivers insist the trucks that were forcefully removed were not part of the traffic, as they went on strike due to mistreatment they were exposed to while in Uganda.
Na kuna mambo mingi watu wameongea wakisema ati madereva wanagoma sababu hataki kupimwa. Kwanza nataka kufutilia hilo bari sababu huo ni uongo. Hakuna dereva anakataa kupimwa. Ile kitu hatutaki ni hizo resort zinakaa siku mingi, na tuliambiwa ukipimwa Kenya kama umepimwa Mombasa ukifika Maraba hakuna kupimwa tena, lakini huo umekuwa ni uongo. Unapimwa Mombasa alafu ukifika Maraba unaambiwa tena lazima upimwe ndio uingie Uganda. Kitu ya pili ni ile dhuluma iko kule Uganda. Waganda kuanzia serikali, wanajeshi, polisi wanasema sisi ni corona. Raia wao ukisimama mahali hata kama ni checking ya gari tu unataka kufanya wanakurushia mawe kukuita corona.
The misunderstanding caused a heavy and long traffic jam of about 50 kilometers, with drivers having to make their own meals to keep hunger at bay.
Bwana, hii shida, si unajua shida kama ilivyo mambo yenyewe hapa baba. Hoteli hakuna, si unajua hoteli zote zimefungwa.
After undergoing the test, the drivers say they are forced to wait for hours on end for their results, thereby causing congestion of the trucks at the border post.
Tumeamua kufungua mpaka, tumefungua border, ingawa shida zetu bado hazijatatuliwa na ile njia ambayo tulikuwa tunatarajia. Manake tulikuwa tunatarajia unaweza kuwa ukipima kutoka Kenya na hiyo certificate ambayo unapata inabidi unakwenda nayo moja kwa moja kuliko hizo delay ambazo zinakuja kwa hapa. Sasa unaona umepimwa Kenya, nimekuja hapa tena nimeacha gari kwenye laini, kwenye foreni, nije hapa nipime tena upya. Tena ningoje majibu mpaka kesho, nimeambiwa nirudi kesho upande wa Uganda, nirudi kesho saa 11. Ambapo sasa hiyo ni process ndefu sana kwa hii magari.
Monday's meeting was followed by another one on Tuesday, all seeking to expedite the testing exercise. The drivers are calling on the government to expedite the testing process as they fear of spending longer days on the road.
Hapa ingekuwa ni wakubwa wetu wangeweza kuongea na nchi ya Uganda wachukulie dereva kama binadamu wenzao. Sababu bila dereva kwa kweli hata wao hawana namna kufikishiwa zile bidhaa muhimu kule Uganda. Watuchukulie sisi kama watu na kazi yetu ikuwe rahisi.
Hakuna vile tuliambiwa jana jam imefunguka na hatuja move hata inchi. Sasa hatujui hiyo jam imefunguka wapi kwa sababu tuko hapa tu karibu na Malaba na tuoni chochote kikiendelea.
Reporting for TV47 from Busia County, I'm Mike Kagwunga.
Now moving to matters politics. Even before the cantankerous Jubilee purge is over, National Super Alliance NASA 2 has taken cue. Suna East Member of Parliament Junet Mohammed, who is also the minority whip, has said that several MPs will know their fate tomorrow.
Removal of members of parliament from their parliament committee positions is set to smoke a doom on Thursday for National Super Alliance parliamentarians. Suna East Member of Parliament and National Assembly Minority Chief Whip Junet Mohammed is expected to unfold the names of those who will face it rough after NASA Parliamentary Group meeting.
Whip the following members from committees for the next 6 months. The proposal I'm giving to the Parliamentary Group tomorrow is to de-whip Honorable Silvanus Osoro from the Agriculture Committee, Honorable Nakara Lodepe from the Defense Foreign Relations Committee, Honorable Catherine Wabilianga from Labour Committee, Honorable Tindi Mwale from Energy Committee, Honorable David Ochieng from Health Committee, Honorable Aisha Katana Juma from all committees, including the Parliamentary Service Commission, Honorable Vincent Kimosi from Transport and Public Works Committee, and also to transfer Honorable Gideon Ochanda from the Budget Committee to another committee that will be decided tomorrow at the PG.
So far, Malindi Member of Parliament Aisha Jumwa and Minority Deputy Chief Whip Chris Wamalwa have been confirmed as culprits of the inevitable purge.
And we are going to present reports on the performance of members who are assigned in every committee. We have the attendance list, people who have been attending committees, people who have not been attending committees. We have done an appraisal of people, how they have performed the last 2 years in Parliament in terms of attendance of committees and participation of committees. So we are going to take tomorrow thorough disciplinary action as the leadership of this House on any member who has not performed, who has not stood up to his work satisfactorily.
The NASA Parliamentary Group meeting on Thursday in Parliament buildings will take place the same day with the Jubilee Party National Executive Council meeting that will be chaired by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Jubilee has already recognized the leadership and membership of Senate committees, and a similar recognition in the National Assembly is meant to be announced soon after the NEC meeting. Linda Alela, TV47.
Now, Jubilee Disciplinary Committee today listened to nominated Senators Millicent Omanga and Victor Pringei after failing to attend Jubilee Senate Parliamentary Group meeting at State House on Monday 11th of this month. Senators Omanga and Pringei insist they never received any communication inviting them to the meeting.
According to the Senate Majority Leader Irungu Kangata, who presented the case before the Jubilee Party Disciplinary Committee, the two senators Millicent Omanga and Victor Pringei are said to have failed to attend Jubilee meeting at State House and failed to send a notice of apology.
Non-attendance. I think that's the main issue. So you attend or failure to render an apology. As to the content of the resolution, I think members are free to attend the PG, oppose the election of Senator Irungu Kangata as the Chief Whip.
The first to be interrogated was Senator Millicent Omanga, who was cornered over her failure to attend the Senate PG, though she insists she has been loyal to the party.
Kukosa mkutano ambao sikupata ujumbe, na kama ningepata ujumbe, mimi ningekuwa labda wa kwanza kule. Lakini vile sikupata ujumbe ndio kwa sababu sikuweza kukua kwenye mkutano ule. Lakini kwa haya mengine yote sioni vile nimeenda kando na vile ambavyo chama ina kulingana kwenda kando na expectations za chama.
Committee questioned Omanga's stand and trust in Jubilee Party following her sentiments during political meetings and even in social media, but she said that all she's been saying with an intention of defending Jubilee Party.
Keep it running. And sioni vile ningekuwa mtu unalipa ile pesa kila mwezi kama wewe you are not loyal and subscribing to the party. It is the party which nominated me, and I'm loyal to it, to its organs, and to the party leader, the deputy party leader, the SG, and all other organs of the Jubilee Party.
Pringei on his side said that the day the meeting was held, he was not within Nairobi and he did not receive any invitation.
Until you get an official SMS or a call from the party or the party leader or whoever is responsible, that is when you take such information serious.
Senator Irungu Kangata on his side requested the committee not to expel the senators for they supported the motion in the Senate to impeach former Deputy Speaker Kithure Kindiki.
I would urge that it refrains from expelling the charged member, but it can render a verdict in any other method it wishes to.
This comes even as Senator Kipchumba Murkomen and Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei have written to the Senate Speaker Kenneth Lusaka rejecting their new position in the Senate committees.
The fate of these 5 Jubilee-nominated senators on whether they continue serving in their positions now depends on the report of the Jubilee Disciplinary Committee. Elizabeth Muchuku, TV47, Jubilee Headquarters, Nairobi.
All right, let's now take our second break. When we get back, we'll continue with the bulletin. Thank you very much for staying with us right here on Midweek on TV47. Let's continue with the bulletin. The floods menace is expected to ease as we get into June. This was announced by Devolution CS Eugene Wamalwa, who says that heavy rains will reduce towards the end of this month. Nonetheless, the CS says the government will continue giving relief food to cushion those affected by floods. Our very own Zablon Masharia reports.
Even the weatherman forecast reduced rainfall and floods in the month of June. Devolution CS Eugene Wamalwa has called upon Kenyans to abide by the guidelines of the Meteorological Department.
When we get alerts, when we are warned by experts that it is going to rain or that we are likely to have landslides, please do not take these alerts lightly, because we have seen even in areas where we were affected in terms of landslides in West Pokot, in Elgeyo Marakwet.
CS Wamalwa says the government will spend at least 3 billion shillings to rehabilitate the environment following the destruction brought by the floods and mudslides. So far, the number of people killed by floods has increased to 285 and at least 810,655 families been affected.
As the rain subside, we will be able to establish the exact acreage in terms of crop loss that we have suffered, in terms of the irrigation land and infrastructure that has been affected.
The CS has also warned residents of Garissa and Tana River counties to be cautious since the dams along the mighty Tana River are swollen.
So even as the rain subsides now, flooding will not end immediately, because the Tana River is still swollen, the waters are still flowing, but with time the waters will subside.
According to weather forecasters, heavy rains are expected to resume again in the month of October. Zablon Masharia, TV47, Nairobi.
Some very needed reassurance by the government that they will continue to give relief food to cushion those affected by the floods. Let's now shift gears to matters economy. After President Uhuru Kenyatta announced a 53.7 billion shillings economic stimulus package on Saturday, the Kenya Public Service on Governance has highlighted the need to put in place measures to guard against pilferage of the kitty. Led by the group's founder Esther Waringa, they want the government to ensure accountability and monitoring of the funds set aside for economic recovery.
Besides the elaborate plan by President Uhuru Kenyatta to jumpstart the economy, Public Service Governance founder Esther Waringa says the government should also consider offering tax breaks to companies seeking to increase their capacity to produce import substitute goods.
That the government offer grant tax breaks to companies seeking to increase their capacity to produce import substitute goods, which could mean even zero rating VAT for the next 3 months. I'm sure it's possible that the government, because we have already received donations from the IMF, we have received donations from the World Bank and other development agencies, then it's very necessary that the government considers zero rating VAT for the next 3 months.
Esther Waringa also urged the government to provide a business stabilization fund for small and medium enterprises to cushion them since they are adversely affected by COVID-19.
That the government consider waiving tax for 3 to 6 months period for industries that have been highly affected by the virus, as well as reduction in payroll tax for the next 3 months for the lower income bracket workers.
Public Service Governance also wants politicians to stop settling their political scores through COVID-19 humanitarian interventions.
It's evident even right now, we continue to see very sharp political divisions emerging from our leaders right now, and political parties' differences as they move to form political coalitions for 2022 elections right now, instead of focusing on COVID-19 mitigations and the country's economic recovery. We even wonder how the economic recovery will be realized if we start politicizing interventions, COVID-19 mitigation interventions at this time.
Eli Logova, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, the government of Rwanda is set to increase funding of RwandAir. The increase in funding is meant to facilitate RwandAir to respond to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Diana Iriza, our correspondent from Kigali, Rwanda, has more of the details.
Hello there, Diana Iriza here from Kigali, Rwanda. Now, ever since the pandemic began, the aviation industry has been highly affected, and there's a lot of concern on how the regional, the East African airlines are being affected and how they are coping with this pandemic. If you look at KQ, it is currently requesting for an additional 6 billion Kenyan shillings from the Kenyan government for maintenance. If you look at Air Tanzania, it has had so many flight activities being put on hold, and there's no word exactly on what the Tanzanian government is doing to support this airline. However, I'm here to talk about the RwandAir airline. This is an airline that belongs to Rwanda. Now, the Rwandan government has announced that it's going to do two things to support this airline. And one of these things is embarking on upgrades of major areas of the Kigali International Airport. It is also planning to increase on its funding. The government has said that it will increase on funding of RwandAir to Rwandan francs 145.1 billion Rwandan francs in the 2020 and 2021 fiscal year, up from 121.8 billion Rwandan francs this financial year. The funds are also meant to facilitate the airline to continue its expansion activities, and also including the acquisition of new planes and the opening of new roads. And just like most airlines across the globe, people have lost their jobs, essential workers are not working, and pilots have had their contracts being put on hold. So the government is hoping that with this new funding, contracts will be, these pilots will be able to get back their contracts, and everything will be put back on track.
Now to international news. And in the Democratic Republic of Congo, calls for a domestic violence hotline but break families. And that story brings us to the end of our bulletin tonight. But before we wrap up, I'd love to sample some of the comments that are coming in through our Facebook Live feed. And we have Anto Wabe, who says, if the requisite measures are put in place in accordance with the WHO guidelines, of more importance is that the major stakeholders, who are the teachers, should be put abreast. Watching from Kiminili. Thank you very much, Anto. We go to Kiprono Dennis, who says, no, you can't play with our lives. Life is a precious gift. Okay, Consolata Okudo says, shule zifunguliwe. Private teachers wanaumia sana kutoka March mpaka saa hii. Mnafikiria wao wanakula nini? Uchumi umeanguka. Very interesting things over there. And Joshua Abere says, shule zisifunguliwe manake elimu si muhimu kuliko maisha ya watoto wetu, na serikali haijatuambia wameweka mikakati ipi kuhakikisha wetu watakuwa wako salama. Asante sana Josh. Those are some of the samples, some of the feedback that are coming in through our Facebook feed. And just to close it up, Papa Adesh says, I'm watching from Mombasa. Thank you very much, Papa Adesh. You can keep the conversation going on our social media platforms. That has been all from me here at TV47 on Midweek. Until next time, be good, stay safe, and above all, stay blessed.